Okay, so we'll just kind of run through common rulings, Law 30, pass out of rotation. This is applying Law 23, our comparable call, Law 23, to these situations. So when we have a pass out of rotation, Law 30, at right-hand opponent's turn to call, Law 30A. Law 30 says that if it's not accepted and my right-hand opponent then either opens the bidding or passes, I am required to pass at my first opportunity. So there is no replacement call. If I pass out of rotation in front of right-hand opponent, I have to pass at my next opportunity. That's just what the law says. It's different when I pass at my partner's turn. We admonish North. We say you're allowed to bid your hand normally as you would have without the knowledge that your partner passed. And then we will then proceed from here. And when the auction gets around to South, we will then determine if the call they make would allow a penalty-free auction. If not, you're going to have to pass your next opportunity. So we just let them go ahead and start the auction as they normally would. I, in practice, stay over the shoulder of this person, this North, because believe it or not, there are Norths who will take advantage even when you tell them not to. And so if I see that something like that's about to happen, I kind of stop things and I take North away from the table. And I make sure that they have a clear understanding of what I was saying when I said they're not allowed to take advantage, so that they are sure to bid their hand in a normal way. Okay, so North may make any legal bid. Unauthorized information may apply. That cloud is sitting there waiting. Okay, what may South do? They can bid any legal bid they want to. If it's deemed comparable, there's no further rectification. If they don't choose a comparable call, then their partner is going to have to pass one time. Law 31, bids out of rotation. Okay, so again, we'll start out with the bid out of rotation at my right-hand opponent's turn. East bids a heart out of rotation. North does not accept it. North passes. I must repeat my bid. Okay. North deals. East bids a heart out of rotation. North bids a spade. East gets ready to make any legal call, but then we can determine if it's comparable. So here we talked about the fact that 2 hearts would be comparable. We would allow 2 hearts for a penalty-free auction to continue, and the cloud goes away. Okay. So bid out of rotation at right-hand opponents to turn to call. North bids 1 spade. There are these decision steps. East does not choose a comparable call, which means their partner must pass. Okay. When we do this at our partner's turn to call, North deals, South bids a heart out of rotation. What may North do? North may make any legal call they'd like without the knowledge that their partner has opened 1 heart. But we have that cloud of unauthorized information that we may have to deal with depending on what the replacement call would be by the South hand. So North deals, South passes out of rotation. What may South do? South may choose a call. If it's deemed comparable, there's no further rectification. They can do anything they'd like. If they do not choose a comparable call, partner's going to be barred for 1 round. And if they end up on defense, there will be lead restrictions the first time that their partner is on lead. So there's a lot of repetition here. It's really just trying to give you examples to continue just to drive home what is comparable, what is not comparable. When do we have unauthorized information? When does that go away? That goes away when a replacement call is determined to be comparable. Skill sets you're going to use. Know the auction that preceded the infraction and whether it has been condoned. If they have already bid over this call out of rotation, then the auction just proceeds normally from there. There's nothing else left to do. Know when and how to communicate effectively with a player away from the table. So again, that's asking them questions, not leading the witness, just trying to gain information from them. What tools do they have in their bidding box that would allow them to describe the same hand that they had shown prior? And then making sure the players understand their choices, including whether comparable call is applicable. And then if a comparable call is not selected, making sure the players understand what auction ramifications will be imposed and lead penalties that will ensue. Stick around until all aspects of the ruling have been completed. Okay, speaking of lead restrictions, Law 26. This actually changed also with our laws in 2017. There used to be a time that if you bid spades insufficiently and you didn't want to make it sufficient, now the first time my partner was on lead, the declarer could require or forbid the lead of a spade. We're no longer allowed to require the lead of a suit. Requiring the lead of a suit is only allowed if there is a major penalty card with that denomination on the table. That's the only time we get to require the lead of a specific suit. All other lead restrictions now have to do with the forbidding of the leading of a suit. So let's talk about what those are. So when call is withdrawn, lead penalties, Law 26A, no lead restrictions if a withdrawn call is replaced by a comparable call and the offender becomes a defender, there are no lead restrictions for his side. So that has gone away. So here is your decision tree for 26B. Was there a withdrawn call in the auction that was not replaced by a comparable call? If so, what suits did the offender name or specify in the actual auction, the legal auction? And when the offender's partner is first on lead, the declarer may prohibit the partner from leading any one suit they get to choose that was not specified by the offender in the legal auction. Since you're at the table, I think the easiest way for me to determine what suit the declarer could restrict is by looking at the bidding cards that are on the table in front of the offender. And those cards they cannot exclude, those bids. So the ones that remain on the table, not the ones that were canceled. So one heart, north, one spade, not comparable. They had originally opened a club, which was not accepted, chose not to bid a club here to make it to make a comparable call. They bid a spade, and it went one no trump, pass, pass, pass. So West was required to pass one time, which they did, and now South is declaring one no trump. So after the opening lead, the declarer may prohibit the lead of any suit but spades, because East bid spades in the legal auction. So if you were looking at East in front of East right now, you would see that he had the spade bidding card on the table. So you would know that they could restrict the lead of any one suit, excluding spades. So here, one heart, one spade, one no trump, pass, two hearts, and now he bids three clubs. Three hearts, pass, pass, pass. So East is on lead. East can lead whatever he likes, but should West gain the lead, what is West allowed to forbid, or what is North allowed to forbid? as far as suits go when West is on the lead for first time. So he can restrict the lead of a heart or a diamond, either of the red suits, because the black suits were bid by the offender in the legal auction. Okay. Common rulings, Law 27, insufficient bids. Let's go with our first steps. When you get to the table, you want to review the auction, kind of get up to speed, have them wait just a moment, give you a moment to review and get to where you're going. Consider whether the call might be inadvertent. In other words, the first thing you really want to determine is when the person made the bid, is that the bid that they intended? So at the club, a lot of times what I will do is to try to save getting players up and away from the table. We have a lot of people who can't really move around. And to try to save that, I will just say to the player, okay, so I would like for you to answer this question, yes or no. I don't want any other response. When you reached into the box, is the bid on the table the one you thought you were making? All I need to know is yes or no. Because if it's no, then I want to take them away from the table and I want to say, okay, so what happened? And they'll say, well, I meant to bid this or I meant to bid that. And so in that situation, it would be a mechanical error, which we can fix according to Law 25A. And so we want to review the auction, consider if it's a mechanical error. The next thing you want to do is see if it's been accepted already. If the person to this player's left has already bid, then the auction just proceeds normally. There's nothing to do about it at that point. And then find out if the bidder has attempted to correct their bid before you have arrived. So second step's taking the player away from the table to discuss whether a comparable call is available. So the Law 27 talks about what corrections are available to players when they've made an insufficient bid. The first is a simple correction at the next available level of that suit. If it shows that suit, then that's a replacement, then allows a penalty-free auction. If that for some reason becomes a conventional bid or doesn't show that suit, then there may be a replacement call that we would deem as comparable that has the same meaning. So that too would allow a penalty-free auction to continue. So correction by the lowest sufficient bid in the same denomination. Both the insufficient bid and correction must specify the same suit. Correction with a comparable call using any three of the definitions that we used, which was similar values and distribution with our first filter. Our second was subsets, and our third is same purpose. So here we have an example where North has opened one no trump and East bid two diamonds naturally, and South doesn't see and bids two clubs, intending it as stamen. Do we have a comparable call here? So let's suppose that three diamonds is a Q bid, which is stamen. They play three diamonds here as stamen. We would allow this as comparable. Okay. So in the class, when we teach this live, a lot of times the question that comes up is, what if we play Lebensall, which is a system over competition of in a no trump auction where they could bid two no trump here, which relays to three clubs, and then they can bid three diamonds, which would be stamen with a stop, or or that kind of the way you would play Lebensall. So the answer here is that 2-no trump is no longer allowed, even if they do play Lebensall, because it takes another round of bidding to get them to a replacement call that is comparable, which would be Stamen. So the immediate replacement bid has to be comparable. It has to contain the same information. And if you play Lebensall here, 2-no trump, relaying to 3 spades, relaying to 3 clubs doesn't necessarily guarantee that a Stamen auction is coming, or any of that. They might be relaying to 3 clubs to pass. So again, all people that bid 2-no would not, all hands that would bid 2-no would not necessarily be a hand that is going to Stamen. And that's why we cannot allow Lebensall here. So if a simple correction of an insufficient bid specifying a suit with the cheapest bid is not applicable, and if a comparable call is not available, then the offender must substitute either a pass or a sufficient bid, and his partner is barred for the remainder of the auction. If you'll recall, when we were talking about replacement of calls when you've bid or passed out of turn, partner is barred 1 round. Here, partner is barred for the remainder of the auction, always in the case of insufficient bids that are not replaced with comparable calls, partner is barred forever. There's only one other time that the partner is barred forever, and that is when we have doubled our partner. Law 36 in inadmissible doubles. When our partner opens a heart and it goes pass and I say double, then my call is canceled and I have to replace it with any legal bid, but my partner is going to be barred for the remainder of the auction. So there's only 2 places where we're barred forever anymore, and that is in the case of an insufficient bid not corrected with a comparable call or a simple correction that allows a penalty-free auction, and in the Law 36 when I've doubled my partner. So those are the only 2 times it's passed forever. Otherwise, it's passed 1 time. So change of call and insufficient bid, skill sets you'll use, differentiating between unintended calls and intended calls, knowing when to consult players away from the table, when it's time to get them up and get them away from the table so you don't give a lot of information to the rest of the players, learning how to question players about their methods, and then alternatives, then determining if a comparable call is available.